Okay, welcome everyone. This is Getting to Know GradeBook. And if you know my background, first off, I'm Shelley Baltic for those of you that don't know me, but I was a classroom teacher. So I used GradeBook quite a bit, and then I became the GradeBook contact person for the district that I worked in. So I've been admin for multiple years working with GradeBook. With that being said, I've worked with the elementary report cards and I understood how those were created. But then I didn't understand how things were on the SIS side and how they incorporated into GradeBook or what I can do in GradeBook with all that information that flows over or integrates over from SIS or the reports that are available that I have in GradeBook. So I didn't have to go into SIS. So there are some helpful things built right into GradeBook that a lot of us don't know about because as you work mostly in SIS, I was mostly in GradeBook. So this is getting to know GradeBook and what it can do for you. So the screen that you are looking at currently, this is a teacher's homepage. So you typically don't see a teacher's gradebook. You just hear them say, well, I can't take attendance or I can't submit grades or things like that. So I wanted to show you exactly what they're seeing, how they see it on their end. So when they're asking questions of why I can't do this or what I can't see, so that you understand. So this is a teacher. This is our test high school. So when teachers courses come over into GradeBook, they come over alphabetically by the course name. So you'll see the course name here, and then the section number. So whatever the section number is. So I'm going to switch back and forth because you're familiar with working in the SIS side. So if I look at my courses, so when I look at my courses for my high school, so if I look at my physics class, so we put in course codes. We know what the course codes are. Some of you guys have them memorized. But what the teacher sees is this the physical name of the class. So we do a lot with the course codes. We see those multiple places, but the teachers really don't see those. So it's important that the course name is something that the teachers are going to see. The next thing is when you create a course section for this course, okay, you're going to assign the teacher, so the teacher of record, and then the meeting time. So then you can see here, this teacher, Mr. Boring, is going to be one of my examples. He has section 1, 3, and 7. So if I look at GradeBook, and you guys aren't going to see this because you don't have access to Mr. Boring, but here is his 1, 3, and 7. Now, depending, and everybody does this different, and I've worked with a lot of different people. Some examples or some things that those of you that do scheduling, what some people do. Sometimes these section numbers are actually the periods. So I know that this is physics 1, physics 7, and so forth. Sometimes it does not correlate with the period of the day, especially at our elementary. Sometimes, so teacher Mrs. Baltic is always section 21 and teacher Mrs. Smith is always section 25. So it goes by the elementary teacher. So just be aware that the teachers do see those section numbers. So if you are not using the periods of the day, make sure they're aware of that so they don't think that physics 1 is their first period class, because that's how they're seeing it. Can they modify this? Yes, they can edit their list and give it their own name. They're allowed to create their name that you're not going to see. Oh no. Oh, there it goes. So they can give it a class alias and they can give it their own name. So if this was, first period, second period, third period, they can rename it themselves so that they see it appropriately in their grade book. They can also put it in the order that they teach. But this is how it comes across to the teachers in their grade books. Another thing when a teacher is in here, if they are taking daily attendance. So some of you deal with the attendance, some of you might not. When a teacher takes attendance in the morning, they come into their daily attendance area, and they typically, most districts have one choice. So when a teacher comes in here to say somebody's absent, they don't have the choice to make them tardy. They don't say, oh, you know what, they were sick yesterday, so they're probably sick today, and give them an excuse. They have the option to give them an absence, an unexcused absence. So once they submit this for the day, so that's for today, I click on save. Once they click save, they cannot edit it. And they're like, oops, I marked the wrong person absent. They can't go in and modify it. As soon as they hit that save button, it automatically sends it to student information. So if I go into student information to look at my attendance list, and I'm going to cheat and use the little quick link here. So the daily attendance list. If I look at that, Ben has a full day of unexcused absence because that was the only option the teacher had in the classroom. So now, as a SIS user, teachers don't have this access. I would have to come in and I can modify this for the teacher. So maybe Ben is not sick today. Maybe he's going on a field trip with the class. So field trip, it's a full absence. It's a non-absence. They're going to the museum. I don't have to put a comment, but I did. If you have a time in, time out, you can do that as well. Okay, so once I hit save on the SIS side, now the teacher, back in the teacher side, I'm going to refresh my screen. Now it changes it for the teacher. So the teacher now sees that in their screen, but they don't have the option to do those things once they hit save. So don't get frustrated with your teachers if they're always marking unexcused, but that's because they have to. Now looking at an absence, if I click inside of one of my classes, they're going to be listed for the teacher. Okay, so if I look here, what class was he in? Oh, it must have been art. Sorry, wrong class. I didn't pick. So you can see here is Ben's class. He has a field trip. So it's going to show that absence code in the attendance column. Until the office changes it, it would be a U for unexcused until the office confirms that they're on the field trip and changes it on the SIS side. So other things that you do on the SIS side that the teachers see, some of the districts are using the alerts. The medical alerts is the default alert. That is if the student has any medical concerns, the teachers do see that. And then if you're using the disability alerts for special education, that populates in this teacher screen. Miscellaneous, some are using this for like do not photo, things like that, or if there's just some oddball thing that teachers need to know, that will populate in their grade book. And then custody. So for a teacher, if they click on any of these, so if I click on my medical alert, it brings up all of the SIS notes. So whatever you put, that is what the teacher is going to see in their grade book as well. So make sure it's something that is useful to you and the teacher. You don't want to just put allergies and the teacher's going to be like, okay, allergies to what? Make sure it's specific enough that that they know, because they'll be checking this area because they'll see it on their screen. Okay. Let me change teachers because I'm going to show you an elementary teacher real quick. So one of the things I know, working a lot with the elementary report cards, the teachers type comments and they decide to type a book. And some of the report cards don't allow for multiple paragraphs of information. But the problem is when the teachers are entering their report card information, they do not see the actual report card. They only see a box. So let me go into this teacher. So when a teacher goes in to enter their report card information, please keep working, please keep working. When I go to my inner report card, this is how the teacher sees it. So especially at the elementary, a lot of them are standards based. You'll see the standards, they're just listed. So they don't know what it looks like, you know, all lined up in, you know, which direction it's folded and so forth. But they have this comment area. I try to put in this, I type these all in. So if you see a typo, always let me know because I do type these in or copy and paste them. But I try to put the approximate amount of characters. So each of the comment boxes is set up by lines. So it's default Arial 8-point fonts, and it's based on lines. So in this case, it's going to be 4 lines of text, which is approximately 350 characters. But if you're using words like multiplication and measurement and things like that, they're going to break at the end of the line and go down to the next line. So you're going to miss some of those characters when you're typing. So it's an approximate, but they don't get to see exactly what it looks like on the report card. They're typing in a box that looks like this, and it tells them how many characters they've typed. I can keep typing and it does not stop me. It just tells me how many characters that I have typed so far. So I do try to put that approximate in there for the teachers. They don't always listen. But that's why sometimes you do have to double check those report cards because they're seeing it. This box is not what it looks like on the report card. Okay, next, we're going to start talking about the screens that you probably have access to. Jody and Allison, you guys only have the guidance screen. I'm going to pop open my navigation on the side. So you guys only have access to the guidance, which some of these features you will not see in the guidance, but the rest of you, you either have full admin access, which gives you access to all of these, or principal or clerical. And those are the two that we're mostly going to talk about today, because that's where most of you will go when you come into GradeBook, is either clerical or principal. Clerical and principal are very similar. There's just a few extra reports with principal, so we'll talk about those, but I'm going to go into my clerical screen. So those of you that have school admin access, if you have school admin access, I would suggest going into clerical because you'll see exactly what I'm seeing. And for those of you that do have school admin access, if your navigation is closed on the side, you can open it. I don't know all the icons by heart yet, but it is the little tiny pencil with the box around it is your clerical. Okay. I know we do some of these things on the SIS side, but you also have access to see some of this information on the gradebook side, such as your daily attendance report. So if I click on that, this is just going to show me what the teachers have done in gradebook by taking daily attendance. So very similar to what you see on the daily absence list in SIS. I can pull it up in a PDF or export it to Excel if I wanted to. So I'm just going to run this for my high school. You, depending on what access you have, will depend on what buildings you see. So if you don't see any buildings here, please let me know and we'll make sure you have access to the appropriate building, but you should have at least one here. And again, you might not have the whole district, but you should have access to the building that you work in. So I'm going to click on the high school. I'm going to run my report and it's going to show me my absences for the high school. And of course, we just had that one today from Ben this morning. Okay, so you can see that. So if you have multiples, you will see those. Okay, so that's something, and again, it's going to show what the daily attendance was ran in GradeBook, not what it was corrected to in SIS. There is an ineligibility report. Oh, I'm so used to going to the admin screen, sorry. There is an ineligibility report on the principals page. I don't go into much detail with this, so it's right here. So I'm on the principal page. The reason why I don't go into this, because it's ineligible per class, it's not their overall GPA. So when it says, hey, when the report asks, you know, look at eligibility less than or equal to, and you can put in a certain point value there, but that's per class. So if I said, I don't want anything lower than a 1.5, if I have an A in a class, it's not going to populate that. It's only going to populate the classes that I have a 1.5 or less. So again, this is different than running it through SIS because this is per class, not my overall GPA. And then one other report that I want to talk about on the principals page in the reports area is the ParentAccess login activity audit. So this will allow you to see the last time parents have logged into ProgressBook. Now, I want to make a side note on that. If you have elementary student and a high school student, if the parent is logging in and has those students merged together, the parent is logging in to check the high school kid's grade. That doesn't necessarily mean they're checking the elementary kid's grade. There's buttons at the bottom, little silhouettes of kids. And they would physically have to click on it, but the audit does not show whose account they were looking at. It just says that they had a successful login at such and such a date at such and such a time. Okay, but it can be helpful, especially before parent-teacher conferences, to look at this and say, you know, we've noticed you haven't logged in for a month. You know, do you need, you know, new information for your ParentAccess login and so forth. So again, good to have before parent-teacher conferences, but it is on the principal page, not on the clerical. Okay. Next, we're going to skip over report cards. We will come back to that in a little bit. We're going to look at the attendance area of the clerical page, and everything that is on the clerical page is on the principal page. It just might be in a little bit different of a spot. So you can see attendance is in the middle here versus on the side of the clerical page. So looking at the clerical page, there's two things that I want to talk about. One is homerooms. So homerooms automatically populate from student information, and I don't have any in here, well, that are set up properly, but they will automatically integrate. So if you create homerooms, insist, they're going to come over. So two issues that I hear about all the time. Well, there's an aide that comes in the morning because we do a TBT meeting before school, and usually the aide takes attendance, so they need access to that homeroom. So instead of doing it on the SIS side for the scheduling point of it, we just want that teacher to have just that homeroom. So we can come under this column where it says add teacher. Once I click on add teacher, I can find that aide as long as they have a GradeBook account and say, okay, Miss Snowday is also going to be taking attendance in this class. So once I select her name and click on update, you can now see in my homeroom list, both teachers are listed. So when either one of these teachers clicks on that daily attendance, they have access to those students. The second thing that I hear about all the time is, well, Johnny moved 2 weeks ago and he's still showing in my homeroom attendance and I can't hide him. So if it is a, if your district uses first period for their homeroom, they have access to that class to hide them. But if you are actually scheduling homerooms in student information, the teachers don't have access to hide the students. So in that case, Johnny left. I would come over here to view students. The list of students would be listed here. There's not a homeroom set up for Mr. Funny. And then you would find Johnny and check the remove button, and that would remove him from the gradebook side. Even if you withdraw him on the SIS side, he still shows up on this homeroom roster in gradebook. Gradebook does not automatically remove him. Just like a teacher will still see the red W next to the student that's withdrawn, they have to physically go into their gradebook and hide them. Okay, so it's kind of the same thing, but they don't have access to this. You would have to do this either from Clerical or from the principal page. If Johnny moves into the district, or we'll say Susie now moves into the district, do not add them here. Do not go to view students and add. They need to be scheduled to the appropriate homeroom through SIS. They will automatically integrate over and populate in the list. Any questions so far? The chat looks pretty quiet. Okay, I'm going to talk about ParentAccess and report card information. So when we are talking about report cards, we have two different report cards that are set up. We have one that's called a DASL report card, and we have one that is called an elementary or a gradebook report card. Those are typically our elementaries that are standards based, but not every elementary is standards based, but their report cards still come out of gradebook. So if you are the person that runs report cards in gradebook, you have this section right here that says run report cards. When you run a report card, you have two options. You have preliminary and you have final. So what this says is, hey, you know what, preliminary, we're going to go through this. We're going to make sure the teachers didn't type a book and their comments didn't get cut off. We're going to look through all of them and make sure everything's appropriate. Notice it says it's not intended to be released. So yes, you can print from preliminary. You can see everything. You can print them out. You can send them home this way, but it doesn't make a hard copy or a permanent copy of the report card. So I'm trying to get all our districts to, after you run the preliminary for whatever grade level it is, make sure you go through the final process. Okay. And I did have a report card meeting. There is information about finalizing your report cards for ParentAccess. That is on the student information homepage. So it does take a little bit to finalize, but what that does is it stores it. Hold on, it's thinking. So now I've gone through the finalization process of an elementary report card. I can view my report cards from here. Next year, I can still view my report cards in the archive. That is what is so helpful, because I get a lot of tickets in August. I need so-and-so's report card from May. And because they didn't finalize, they don't have access to it. Okay. But what this also does is it populates it in ParentAccess. It also populates it in the I want to menu for my student. And I know this is a high school student, but if you finalize it in gradebook, it will populate in this I want to view the latest report card. So even though the report card doesn't print out of DASL, I can still view an elementary report card in DASL as long as I go through that final process. Now with student information, when I'm running that, it's just a little bit different because it's in my load settings. Oh, didn't mean that. And it's called schedule the report card. Okay, so finalize in elementary world and schedule the report card in high school world. But what both of them try to do is it will pick the last date of the 9 weeks. Okay, so I'm sorry, of the published date of the 9 weeks. So when we're talking about that, so my elementary report card has not been published yet because I asked it to be published on the published date, which not everybody has access to this. Oop, let me go back. From the principal page or my admin page, I have report card dates. Those report card dates, this publish is when it will be available on ParentAccess. Okay, so it's not available until I'm gonna change that for the elementary or for the high school. Okay, so this is when it populates, it shows up, and the teachers actually, or I'm sorry, the parents can actually get a physical copy of the report card. So those districts that are now trying to go paperless, they don't want to send them home. Some districts are just sending them home at the end and saying, hey, parents, you can go online and see them whenever you want. So this part is from the principal page. Clerical cannot do this. So if I'm on the principal page, I have something called View Student Progress and Attendance via ParentAccess. So, and this is super helpful, even if you have school admin, like this is super helpful because you're like, what are the kids seeing? What's populated there? So this is exactly what they would see. So I'm going to click on View ParentAccess. I would pick my student. So, and then I would view the information for that student. So it's going to show you what Mickey is seeing on his screen. So I'm in the planner. I can see their current grades. Here's something nice too. So if you are the person that is printing report cards, you can look at this as of date. That is the last time teachers submitted grades in their grade book. So that is when they put their assignments in and so forth. So if a teacher has not put anything in, and you can see I don't have any assignments in here, but it would say as of October 18th. Or if I put grades in over the weekend, it would say as of October 14th or whatever the date was. Okay, so that's going to show you the last time the teacher updated their grades in their grade book. But right here is the report card. So if I click on the report card, it's thinking. There's two ways that you can view a report card. One is this, what I call the grid view. So it will populate here, and I'll show you an elementary student here in a second. It will populate here. Okay, so it's not the official look of the report card. It's just the report card grades. It says what class it is and the grades. So it's not in the report card format. If the report card is available and published to ParentAccess, so from the R700, it was scheduled, or from the elementary, it was finalized, I'm going to say view paper report card. Now the parent has the PDF of the report card. They can download it, they can print it, they have the physical copy of it. Okay. So not only do you get to see it in student information in that I want to menu, but the parent also gets to see it in the gradebook or ParentAccess. The other thing that it does when you finalize / schedule is it creates this paper trail. So here's my other option of view paper history. So if I click on that, every time that a report card is finalized, it's going to show. So even if you're not mailing home report cards at grade card time, you might want to go through that finalization process to make sure they get published on ParentAccess. So whether you're scheduling it for R700 or you're finalizing, going through the finalized process in GradeBook. But then it populates here and you can see it would have all the 9 weeks. So if you're just a district that sends home the report cards at the end, yes, it's great. And make sure you finalize at the end because it has all your grades, but then the parent's only going to see one report card. Is that wrong? No, not necessarily. But if you want them to see it quarterly or by trimesters, make sure you're going through that process each time. And then they would just click on the term and it automatically pops up that PDF. Okay, and then let me switch students. I want to show you. So this is the grid look of a report card. So if you don't go through that finalization process, it will just look like this. So it doesn't look exactly what the report card looks like. It's just what I call the grid view. So this is what parents would see. And then you can see right here, a paper report card is not available for the student because it hasn't been published. So if you're wanting them to see that actual physical report card, make sure you're going through that process. Okay, this one is always helpful. And I did say I was going to work in the clerical part of it, but this one again is on the principal page, and I believe guidance. You also have this right here under student information. So yay for the two of you that have guidance, you see something here. You also have the ParentAccess option. But so from guidance, it's under the student information, and then principal, it's in the middle under student information. Those of you who have admin, from the admin homepage, it's all the way on the right-hand side. It's called year-end reports. So we typically populate these in August once integration has been turned back on. So that first week in August. So what these are, and we get this a lot. I need so-and-so's grade from algebra class last year. Okay, well, I don't remember what it was, or, you know, we need to see what was, you know, the teacher was doing. Why did Mrs. Smith have all A's fourth 9 weeks? So what this does, and you're only going to have access to the districts you have access to. I have all of them. So in this case, I'm going to run this. So there are two options. I know there's three. We're not going to do period attendance. What we're going to focus on is class progress or student progress. So my class progress allows me to find the grades of a specific teacher. Okay, and I'm not going to do this because this is a live district. Okay, so I would type in the teacher's name and it would populate each course that they teach and all of the students in the course with all of their grades. Okay. So again, it's going to show year by year. My student progress is the same thing, but it's by student. So once I search for the student, again, it's going to populate year by year. And then it will have each class within that student's year-end report. And again, this is looking at each year. So if you need to go back 2 years, our archive only goes back 1 year. So if somebody asks me something from the archive, I can only get it from last year. If I need to look at a teacher's grade book from 2 years ago, I have to go into a year-end report. And I need a family that has less children so it doesn't take as long to load. But I'll kind of describe it. So you'll see the first column, it's going to have like, it'll have like 17, 18, and then it'll show the progress report and who the student is and what grade they were in. And then it would have 18, 19, who the student is and so forth. And then there'll be a little PDF symbol that you can click on and it would pull up the PDF for that student. Let me just pull up one student, see. I'm hoping it's just because. Oh, is it? Oh, no. Okay. Oh, no, we're all getting the spins in the room here. So, it just might be one of that with that little glitch that we had. But it is a nice, oh. Well, it reset it. Okay. We will move on. Let's look at some reports that GradeBook has built in. So I'm going to go back to my Clerical. Maybe. Oops, that didn't work. Okay, while GradeBook's thinking, I will show you this real quick on the SIS side. So as you finalize report cards, whether you're finalizing them in GradeBook or in student information, in here, if I type in archive in my go-to menu, you'll see that it has the archived report card maintenance. Okay, I'm getting comments in the chat that people are spinning too. So I'll show you this and hopefully I can get to some of those reports. But this archived report card maintenance, this is helpful. So if you are finalizing things, you can see here, I ran through it twice. You can see that I have 2 different report card names. So if you have to rerun your report cards, because maybe you made a mistake when you were finalizing them, you need to keep the same report card name and it will overwrite it. If you make a different name, it will populate it twice and it will populate it twice on ParenAccess. So you can see here, one time I said first quarter 24-25, and the second time I did the year first. So now in ParenAccess, it populates 2 report cards for GP1. So you can come here and delete it if you made that mistake. And I have a student in context, excuse me, so it will not let me rename it. So let me remove my student from context. Now I have the pencil. So if I had a mistake, I spelled something wrong, don't rerun it. You can just come here to the pencil and you can rename it. This does not show you the actual report cards, but it tells you how many report cards it populated and what the name is going to appear on ParenAccess. And then you can see here the published date as well. If I switch to my elementary, the published date, remember I didn't publish that one yet. It's not set to publish till the 25th. And that was going by those report card. Ooh, I'm back here. The report card end dates. So that was here. So that's the published date on that. Okay. Fingers crossed. I'm not going to go back into those year-end reports. I'll try it again right at the end. I do want to talk about some of the report builder reports. And you will see these, everybody's are a little bit different. So you might not see the exact one because it is based on the job function. So school admin typically gets most of them. Principals get a majority of them, and then guidance and clerical get some of them. So again, it's based on what role you have. So clerical, or I'm sorry, guidance, you can see you have the whole long list here as well. And then clerical, same. Okay. And you might not see the exact one based on that role. So a couple that you want to look at. So the first one is, and you can see these are ones that we have modified or created here at TCCSA. Some of you might see a specific one for your district. So you might see your district initials with this. So one to look at is called the NYTD average by student. Okay, so the year-to-date average by student with the N. Why it's an N, I don't know, because it shows a homeroom. So I would think it would be an H, not an N, but I didn't name it. So if you click on that, all of your reports on the side are going to have the report viewer. This is how you set it up. You can pick a building or buildings depending on what you have access to. If you want to set any filters, and then the columns below is showing you what it is going to print by default. So in this case, it's going to do the reporting periods and the year to date. And it will obviously, it'll populate the student's name and stuff automatically, but you can add or remove any columns. With leaving it as the default, it would show the student's name, the class that they're attending, the teacher's name, the year-to-date average, and then their homeroom. So for my Career Center people, I believe the Career Center uses this quite a bit because their homeroom is typically, or a lot of times it's their labs. If you make a mistake, you can always close out and come back in, or you can click on this show setup and you can correct it. So maybe you wanted something extra. Maybe you needed a birth date in here. I can go and add that column, view the run, and it's going to now add that column into my, my report. You will notice it will populate on the screen, and I don't have anybody in here because I don't have year-to-date averages. But you can see here, I can export this into Excel and then I can manipulate it and filter it as needed. The difference with the NYTD versus just the regular YTD is this one doesn't automatically populate the homeroom. So very similar, same thing I would pick, has the reporting periods and the year to date. It just does not populate that homeroom in that by default. So you can see exactly the same, just no homeroom. And again, all of these in the setup, you can customize and add or remove columns for that run. So these two are very common, and sometimes filters are used on these. And I know I have some Career Center people on here, so we just created 2 new ones that includes the homeschool for you guys. So I'm going to talk about the Student Marks Gradebook and the Student Mark DF report. For my Career Centers, it's going to say CC Student Marks and CC Student Marks DF. Those 2 are only available to the Career Centers, so you should see those in your list. And it will populate the homeschool so you can see those. The student marks is going to show the grade book marks at this present time. So this does not show report card marks like a lot of our report cards do. Good question. So there is a question in the chat. Is there a report showing grade cards with missing grades? Yes. So we'll touch on that. If I look at this, I'm going to go into my high school. These are all the columns that's going to populate by default. I can always add or remove as needed, and then I can view my report. So you'll see the column headings across the top. So my reporting period, who my student is, what grade that they are getting at the current time, in what class, with what teacher. Okay, so again, this is GradeBook marks at the present time. This is not report card marks. So if I go into Miss Snowday's GradeBook right now and look at Algebra 1, Section 1 for Chris Bacon, he's getting a 98.18. So that doesn't necessarily mean that that is the grade that is going to be on the report card. That is what is currently in the GradeBook now. So the difference between that one and the DF report, it's just going to filter. And you could always filter on your own. If you want the average, you can say is less than 70%. You can pull up a report that shows kids below a C. So I would pick my building. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to pick my building, view my report. I don't think I was going to say, I don't think I put anybody with a D or an F. And then you would see, it would only populate those kids with a D or F. And depending on your district, if you have a D plus or D minus, those will populate as well. And again, this is GradeBook marks. This is not what has been sent over to student information. Okay, another one that can be helpful closer to report card time. If you run it as an admin, you can run it for, let's see. Why am I missing this? Oh, missing assignments. Sorry, I was looking up there. I want my missing assignments. So this is going to show anything that has been marked missing in the teacher's gradebook. So if I click on that, if there is something missing, I can say, okay, grading period 1 from my high school. These are the column headings. If I want to add or remove any of those, notice it's going to show the due date. It's going to show if it's been marked missing and if it's been marked late. And then when I view my report, it will show all of my missing assignments for the building. So missing grades. And this is going to be hard to show in my demo because I did not pull anything up. Try and think what the best one would be. It would probably be the report card marks admin. So that will show you what has populated for the report card. So if I go in there, I'm not going to have any right now. And some of you might not get anything on this either. Report cards have not been completed yet. So some of you guys are in the midst of ending your 9 weeks. Some of you guys still have another week. So if you don't have report card marks, you're not going to see anything. You would pick your report card, and then whichever teachers, if you need for all teachers, so, and again, this is by teacher. I mean, you can do multiple teachers at once. I'm not sure if this is going to help you or not, Jill or Janelle. So you can see who the teacher is, who the student is, and then what their mark is for the report card. This is a standards-based report card. I just knew I had stuff. So if a student was missing, it would obviously be blank. You can probably filter and say if the mark does not have a value. And it would probably do the opposite. So Fran, yes, good comment. So in DASL, the R302, you can find missing grades. That only works for DASL report cards. That doesn't work for elementary report cards. So this would work better for elementary report cards. And then I did try to set it up as I was updating report cards this year. For sorry, I clicked on the wrong button. For teachers that have not submitted their grades, there is one for validation. And I can never find it. Absence types. Hold on, let me move to principal. I'm totally missing it. The validation report for the report card. Some of these you will never use, like this one is something I use. I'll get back with you on that one, but yeah. That's why, thank you. That's why I can never find it under report card builder. Thank you. Yep, it's right here. So maybe look under report cards. But I've been trying to put value required yes on the elementary report cards. So if you would run that, if there is nothing in there, it would populate and say, hey, you know what? Mrs. Baltic does not have grades for math 3. And that would populate on that report. So a couple different ways that you can see it depending on what report cards you're looking at. Like some of these like report cards with missing classes and stuff, those are things that I use when I am building the report cards. So you're not really going to use those for missing grades. So the valid verification one would work, and then the report card marks would also work. And then if you're in DASL, the R302. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about, and this would be for the principal page, and I believe guidance has this, but not Clerical. Okay. Clerical does not have this. So I know it's different how you guys are set up. And some of you might have both guidance and Clerical or principal guidance, whatever. So some of them are on one page, but not another. So the last thing is the student progress report. So there's 2 different ones that you'll see. Student progress report. This is for any of your students that get a regular report card. So it's not standards based. And then your student progress report by assessment would be for any students that get a standards based report card. So typically you're K through 3, sometimes you're K through 5, depending on your building. And there's a few buildings that have a 6 on standards based. But what this does is it allows you to populate a group of progress reports for a grade level and or for certain students. This is nice before parent-teacher conferences. So if you're not doing official interims, you can run these and give them to your classroom teachers. Classroom teachers can also run these for their entire class, but you can also run them as groups. So if I just said, I'm going to run my 3rd grade, I can leave it as all students, or I can pick individual students if I want. So if I use my control key, I can click on multiples and print just who I want, what reporting period it's going to be for, and then how I want it to sort. This is what I kind of like here is you can pick and choose what is visible. But some of you that are using this for parent-teacher conferences, there is also the option to put a parent signature line. So it just prints an area for them to sign. So if they're coming to parent conferences, you've showed them the progress report, they're aware of it, they can sign it and return it. Okay, and it does populate it as a PDF. Most reports, like these types of reports, populate better as PDFs. Your report builder reports populate better as Excel. Okay, I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions in the chat. You can either type them in or unmute yourself. Yes, and we have a question in the room.
So I guess it doesn't matter unless you're running a whole grade level. Is there a way to exclude your kids that are not attending, like your R kids? Because they show up in your list.
Yeah, in GradeBook, no. Yeah, GradeBook's a little bit different. Yeah, it populates anybody that has an active status, even if they're not attending.
I don't think you'd use it very often, but in case you.
Right. So if you didn't hear the question, if you can filter out your status, because some of the reports do populate the R or a status that's active, but they're really not attending. And there is no way in GradeBook. Any other questions? Okay, I paused the recording. I will, Jody, I saw your message. I will get, if anybody else needs CEUs, please just put it in the chat and I'll get you information. I did not set up the automated one for the CEUs. So I will get those to you for those of you that need it. I am going to stop the first recording. I'm going to stay on. Some of you are attending the 10:15 session. It happens to be the same Zoom chat or the same Zoom link. So if you want to stay on, you're more than welcome to, but go fill up your coffee, take a 15-minute break, and then we'll start again at 10:15.